It's August 2011, and to many English football fans, Sergio Aguero is still just a name from FIFA and Football Manager. £35 million is still a big transfer fee. Pre-Swansea, pre-Michu, Swansea are away at City in their first ever Premier League game. With City 1-0 up, a fresh-faced Sergio comes off the bench with an hour gone, and the sense of anticipation is tangible. 10 minutes pass, right place, right time for a back post tap-in debut goal. 3 more go by. He lifts the ball over Michael Vorm and floats it back from the byline for David Silva to slam home on the volley. Then the icing on the cake, added time, 30 yards out, bang, 4-0. Smiling to himself, Roberto Mancini tells the press that his new striker isn't 100% fit after one of the most stunning Premier League debuts ever, and he hasn't looked back since. Fast forward some 7 years, 200 plus Manchester City goals, 150 odd of those in the Premier League, and you'd expect Aguero to be widely considered as one of the division's best ever strikers. But he is, we hear you cry. So how many times do you think he's made it into the PFA Team of the Year? 4 times? 3 times? Twice? That seems a bit low. Nope, just the once. Last year. While City stated their case as the best Premier League side ever in 17-18, Aguero only played 25 times and didn't knock up his record goal tally in a season. Having never won Player of the Year either, it makes you wonder whether a bit of a Leonardo DiCaprio Oscars situation went on last year, as people realised he'd been overlooked for so long. Obviously, individual awards aren't everything in football, but is this symptomatic of a more general trend? So if Aguero is underrated, can we put our finger on why that is? It's not like there are many Premier League supporters who wouldn't love him in their team, but does he lack some kind of X factor, or are there other elements at play? One possibility is that he's just a victim of his own consistency. He hit the ground running in England straight away and has only dipped below 20 goals a season twice, once when limited to just 23 appearances in 2013-14. His time in the Premier League can be divided up into various attritional degrees of brilliance. His title-winning goal against QPR was iconic, but so much else of what he's done has just been business as usual. He's never had a season quite like what we saw from Mo Salah, for example, who ran riot last season in a way that's more conducive to winning individual honours. But that's not the only thing someone like the Egyptian has in his locker over Aguero. The cult of Salah simply took over in a way you don't feel it ever could with Aguero, whose public profile is limited, and even the most recognisable chant about him is a fairly mundane shout of Sergio, Sergio. Or is it another thing you can't help but associate with the Argentinian, the scourge of fantasy managers across the world? Aguero's injury record. Missing an average of about 9 Premier League games a season, his raw numbers don't quite stack up to the division's biggest ever hitters, but his goals per game ratio is right up there with Thierry Henry, and significantly better than the likes of Alan Shearer and Wayne Rooney.
I also think that in terms of fan-voted awards, obviously they skew towards Liverpool and Manchester United. That's why Salah is probably more famous than Aguero. Aguero has achieved far, far, far more than Mohamed Salah is and probably ever will do. Aguero has a reputation as being injury prone. Although if you look at it, I think in 5 out of his 7 seasons he's managed to have at least 30 Premier League appearances. So it's not been that bad. There have been seasons where he's struggled with repeated injuries, but it's not like he's missed half a season or a whole season because of it. Aguero's probably got better at managing his injuries since he's got older. If you look, he's actually changed his game. He doesn't really chase after loose balls as much as he used to. He doesn't do as much running off the ball as he did. But I do think maybe that reputation does affect his profile, even in a slightly unfair way.
When you think about it though, surely battling through knee injuries time and time again should only add to Aguero's prestige rather than diminish it. And it's all too easy to forget that there was a real possibility of him being phased out of City altogether with the arrival of Gabriel Jesus.
Obviously, when City signed Gabriel Jesus in January 2017, there was lots of talk that he would step up and be the main man for City and would eventually supplant Aguero as number 9. But I think, looking right now, Aguero's in the strongest position he's ever been in at City. There were times in the past where Jesus would play ahead of Aguero in a big game. That doesn't happen anymore. It's always Aguero. I think that says a lot about how Aguero has managed to meet Guardiola's demands, and I think it says a lot about how good Aguero is and how he's continued to improve. The fact that he's still there and the main man at City.
Perhaps we're just inherently uncomfortable with lauding current players as being the best, or among the best who have ever done it. With the exception of you-know-who, of course. Nobody wants to speak ill of the dead, do they? Maybe nobody wants to end up with egg on their face in case he breaks a leg and is shipped off to Inter Milan without scoring another Premier League goal. But David Silva stated in September that Aguero could yet break Alan Shearer's all-time scoring record despite needing over another 100 goals at the age of 30. And would you really bet against it? Legendary status is already assured on the east side of Manchester, and in time, that will surely spread further.
Whatever happens in the next few years, I mean, if Sergio Aguero retired now, he would be seen as one of the Premier League's greatest ever players and goal scorers. If he gives us another few more years, gets beyond 200 Premier League goals, far beyond Thierry Henry, for example, who I think is in the 170s, it would be unarguable that Aguero was the Premier League's greatest ever foreign striker, even if his public profile doesn't quite match that level yet.